Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary Orchard and I did some looking back, and it's time for a retrospective. These are the apps that have lasted the longest on our iOS devices. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Raycon. Create your own soundtrack with Raycon. Right now, our listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/iOS. Well,
I went the wrong way. Darn it.
Sometimes that happens. Hello, and welcome to iOS Today. This is the show where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePod OS. It's all the OSs Apple has on offer, all the answers to your questions, or as many as we can get to, and where we talk about apps and stuff. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I'm Rosemary Orchard. Hi.
Oh, hello, Rosemary. How are you today?
I don't know. It feels like I've not spoken to you in ages, Micah. What is that?
Yes, folks, for fans, all of you, I'm sure, of Rosemary Orchard, you should check out Smart Tech Today, twit.tv/STT. As yesterday, Rosemary filled in for Matthew, who's on vacay. And we had a great show where Rosemary gave us a tour of her smart home. And it was really informative, really interesting stuff. But today, we're not doing tours of smart homes. Today, Rosemary said, you know what we should do is a blast from the past. And honestly, this had me feeling a little nostalgic. I launched to the App Store. I tapped on my profile. I tapped on purchased. And then I started swiping up to go all the way down to the bottom and see the very first apps I ever installed on my phone. And it turns out the first app I ever installed on my phone, which is odd, it's not in my list because it's so silly. It was a tip, not a tip calculator, but a like split the bill calculator app. And this came before Twitter. This came before any other app. So I don't know what I was thinking that I wanted that to be the first app that I downloaded to my phone, but it was. So this was fun to see. But then it also had some things like Mailbox was in there and some other apps that have just gone away that I miss. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of sad, but we've picked out some apps that we think have kind of stood the test of time. And so Rosemary, why don't you tell us about your first app that stood the test of time?
Well, just for anybody who's curious, I have just scrolled back to verify the very first app that I ever installed on my iPod Touch, not iPhone, because I thought, no, the iPhone's too expensive. I'll buy an iPod Touch and a dumb phone. That's what everybody's going to do anyway. Oh, how wrong I was. Here I am with an iPhone 12 mini. It was Easy Task Manager. Could I be more stereotypical, Micah? I seem to love productivity. Shortly after that came Facebook, the iTunes remote, which I don't use anymore, and Evernote. But the first app I actually want to talk about here is Glympse. So this one I'm not going to show you because otherwise it's going to show my exact location. But the idea of Glympse, and it is an app I still use today, is that it can share your location and where you're going to and the path that you've traveled along with other people. And the reason why this is great over something like Find My is because you can share it cross-platform. So you can share it with an Android user and people can look at it on the web or wherever. So you can send a link to somebody and they get that information. You can say, share my location until I get to this place, or share my location until the end of the day, and things like that. And it shows you, a little path along so that, that people can actually follow you and not stalk you because you've given them permission to do it. But it is really useful if, for example, your phone runs out of battery and they can see, oh, they were almost home. Right. You know what? I'm going to give them 15 minutes to plug their phone in, put it back on charge, and then I'll call and check that they're safe. Yeah, okay, they messaged 10 minutes later, this person got home safe, you're all good. Especially now we're going back to, going places and seeing people. It's also really handy when you're trying to meet up with people, because then you can see, okay, this person's coming down this road over here and I'm over here. So if I cut over, then I'll actually be able to meet them, because you can see that historical data of actually where they've come from with this line on the map. And I really love it. It's got some handy little, fast actions in it. So you can easily say, send my location to this person, or you can request information from somebody. And it's just a great app, and it's free. So why not?
Heck yeah. We love free. That I'll have to check that out because I like to use Find My, the Find My network for a lot of my location sharing, and my partner and I tend to use that in the Mail, or not the Mail app, but the Maps app with the Find My integrations. But one thing that I found is that not everybody wants to share for X amount of time, or they feel like it doesn't give them as much control as they'd like to have over when we stop sharing versus when we continue sharing. And so I do like that idea of having this kind of separate app that just does this one thing and does it well. So that could be a good one. My first one is one that I'm an evangelist for this app, because I think that everybody should have this app and everybody should use this app whenever they are watching a show, a movie, any kind of sort of visual media, and they have a question about who's this actor? I recognize this actor. What show did I see this actor in? What's the name of this person, et cetera, et cetera. I maybe know a few people who are close to me, perhaps, who, for some reason, go and do a Google search for an actor's name, or if we're watching a show, then they search the name of the show, and then Google will sometimes pop up results of other shows that they're in. But what's really good at this, and does this better than anything else, is IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, because it's purpose designed to be this thing. So I will often have races with this person I may or may not have been talking about when one of these questions comes up, where he will go and type into Google the thing that he's trying to find, and I will type into IMDb the thing that we're trying to find, and I will get it so much faster because I can look up, for example, Constance Zimmer, and right there, the filmography is immediately available. I can see what shows Constance Zimmer is known for, and then I can tap See All to see, the different things that Constance has been a part of, and what roles Constance played, including the name of the character that Constance played in that thing. And here's another great benefit of using IMDb versus another thing. If you're watching a popular show or a show that has a cult following, and you choose to do a Google search for that thing, how many times have I heard my partner go, oh no, and I go, what? I just got something spoiled for me. Oh, is that because you did a Google search for the person's name instead of using IMDb? Okay, I may or may not be a little salty about all of this, but the point is IMDb is fantastic. It is very good at this very specific job and does it faster and better than anything else. And so I'm not surprised. It was like one of my first 10 apps that I ever installed on my iPhone, and to this day, I launch it, a couple of times a week to find different things. And this is kind of weird. If I type in this name for the listeners, it's a certain Micah Sargent. For some reason, I am listed in the Internet Movie Database. I had this come up for me one time where I was listed in the Internet Movie Database. So weird. Don't really consider myself an actor, but thank you to whomever made that addition. That was kind of you,
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. Anyway, IMDb.
Take it as a compliment, Micah.
I will do my best to take it as a compliment. Internet Movie Database, very good. Available for free in the App Store. And if you're boycotting Amazon, then don't use it because it is owned by Amazon. So there's just a little heads up there. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
It's a great app, and I love it as well. So my next app that I'm going to talk about is an app that I don't use it so much anymore, but it is a good app nonetheless, and that is GoodReader. So for people who are familiar with things like Documents by Readle and so on, then GoodReader is an alternative to that. Now, it's $5.99 in the App Store, a one-time purchase, but it has a whole bunch of features in it. So I reinstalled this just before the show to make sure that I could show you everything, because it's got a lot of swipe gestures and everything built in. So, for example, you can easily swipe just to close a document and go back. And while the UI still looks a little older, I find it's quite useful for doing things like syncing an entire Dropbox folder offline. Because I don't know about you, Mikah, but I used to travel a lot. And I'll probably be traveling quite a bit more again, maybe not this year, but certainly next year. And there is nothing more frustrating than you're sitting at 30,000 feet, or you're just somewhere at the beach, for example, and you've got no signal, going, oh, I did just want to read that thing. No, can't do it. Got to go find a cafe, get some Wi-Fi, download it. But, you can connect this to Box, Google Drive, Dropbox, a computer. You can import things from photos and so on. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff here. SugarSync, if you're still using SugarSync. What about OneDrive? And they also have options to connect to AFP and SMB servers, as well as things like WebDAV, FTP, SFTP, and so on. And I used to, and I actually still do, have one of those portable hard drives with a Wi-Fi connection. So it can create its own Wi-Fi connection. And this would be great for getting stuff on and off of there onto my iPad so that I could watch films. That was the way I used to travel, with a 2 terabyte hard drive plugged in to that, and I could just boot it up, grab a film off of it, and watch it. And this is, a tool that I keep in my arsenal. I don't necessarily use this regularly, but when I know I need to solve a weird problem with a file, this is the app that I turn to every single time. You've got security options where you can protect files and so on, which gives you all sorts of things. You can, just straight up connect to a server as a one-off. I know you can do that in files nowadays, but this will keep the settings there in the past for you. And then, as I said, these auto sync options. And that's what really gives GoodReader a place in my life now. Just because I don't need that feature very often. But you know what, Mikah? When I need that feature now, and I need it to be solid and stable for me, and actually grab all of that data, or go, hey, you don't have enough space on your iPhone to download all of this. What do you want to do? And so, yeah, it's a great app that I still use, and it's $5.99 one-time purchase.
Nice. We love an easy purchase app with not a lot of subscriptions and all of that when they come around. All right. My next one here is a very simple app. It is First Aid from the American Red Cross. Again, I am going back and looking at the different apps that I had downloaded. This was among some of my first that I thought was worth talking about, because what happens if you're in a place where you don't have internet connection? What happens if you are in a place and you just need some quick information about a thing? This is very helpful for that. So the first page that you have is a learn page, and it has different categories. So there are life-threatening categories, non-life-threatening categories, and then they also, in order to pay for the fact that this is a free app, there are advertisements in here, and then also they have they have items that offer you first aid for that teach you how to do first aid for different things. So let's go with, let's say you are in a situation and someone, it looks like they're having a diabetic emergency. There's a video at the top, which in this case, I believe would require a connection, but there's the text right down here. It says, for a person who is conscious, able to follow commands, and able to swallow, give them something containing sugar. And then it has information there, and reassure the person. And then it also has all this information down here, FAQ, for what is, what are some of the questions that you might have about that. Then there's also prepare. So this is a really great section for, getting ready for potential disasters of any kind. And so there could be, drought, earthquake, what you would need in your emergency kit. And then they actually have some stuff suggested here. I read recently that it is not a good idea to buy a pre-packaged emergency kit, that you should build your own. Not only will you save money, but you will get things that you actually need, and you will skip the things that you don't, and then also get things that may not have made the list. So then, if I'm worried about a volcano, then I've got what I would need to do here as well. Then I can go to emergency. And this, let's say, is there somebody choking? you can see right here, it gives you the information, but then it also has a quick call 911 button. And you can see where it's listed too. See, so it's not, you do this thing and then you do this thing and then you call 911. So it helps you to figure out like, what are the steps? How soon should I be calling 911 if I should, and how that works. And then if you'd like to quiz yourself, after you've learned about these different topics, you can start to get better about it. And then the last one is the ability to look for a hospital near you and find an emergency room, which I didn't know that there was an emergency room in Petaluma. I thought the closest one was out of town. So that's interesting. Petaluma Valley Hospital has ER space. Anyway, so this is a very simple, very easy to use app that is put out by the American Red Cross and has lots of information that you might need for first aid.
That is such a great app. And as you said, Mikah, you really ought to build your own first aid kit. Even if you can buy a great pre-built pack, knowing what's in it and what it's actually supposed to be used for, I think is one of the things that you really learn when you're building your own kit. And there's just always something missing. I always end up building my own. And pro tip, always travel with Haribo, like a small little packet of sweets of some kind, because A, if you get really hungry, you could eat them. But B, if you run into somebody having a diabetic emergency who needs sugar, then you can save the day by giving them your sugar. And you can always go and buy some more. Plus, it's always nice when you're on a plane going, oh, I'm so exhausted, to give yourself that sugar boost. Well, my next app is actually a great way of tracking this information, saving it, and then getting to read it when you actually have time. Now, there are two apps that fall into this category because I've used both of them over the years, and I'm currently back in the Pocket camp, but Instapaper is another worthy candidate. And so Pocket is an app where you can save YouTube videos or whatever. And the idea is it collects this list of things for you to go back to later and read. And I can see I added something there earlier that I didn't intend to add. I clicked on the Pocket button instead of the OmniFocus button in my browser. But what I like about Pocket is it gives you a really lovely, consistent article view. So I'm scrolling through this article here, and it's lovely. But if I wanted to go back to, say, the Tom Bin website where this came from, it's reading about why there are new bags. So you can see that you've got the website, you've got the cookie disclosure at the top and everything. And as you scroll down, you've got the cart option there and then the comments at the bottom. If you don't want things like that, then Pocket is a great way of getting rid of things like that. And because it does just give you this very nice, clean, minimal view. The other thing is of course, you've got all of these things that you've saved over time. And when you're finished, you can go ahead and archive something. But if there's something that you've been wanting to listen to or rather read for ages and you think maybe it would be better if I listen to this, it's 4 minutes, but I need to do the dishes. Well, you can tap on the headphones option and it will go ahead and play it for you instead. And so it will actually, speak these articles to you, which is pretty cool. There's options to change the voices and to always use offline voices, which of course, if you've got a low data amount, then you'll want to do that. And in general, I just find it to be a really useful app. Now, if I scroll up a little bit, you will see that there is this ad here to get the ultimate Pocket experience. And Pocket is free, but you can pay $4.99 a month, or I believe it's $44.99 for a year to get it entirely without ads and save all of your articles until you actually get around to reading them. Because I don't know about you, Mikah, but I end up sometimes saving things in here. And if I scroll way back, then it's like, oh, what was this? Like, why do I have this saved in here? I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time. You can also, of course, go to a Discover tab where there are some suggestions. There's also an activity option for people who recently followed you. Hello, Scott. And then you've got a bio. I don't really have anything in my bio. This is just a place to stash stuff that I read. You can, of course, select a theme. There's light, dark, and sepia. You can switch your theme automatically to match the system theme. And then there's some options for opening the best view where Pocket will decide, should it do the article view with cutting out all of the other bits and just using its own styling, or should it show you a web view and things like that. And you can set your browser preference as well if you've got multiple browsers installed. So it will jump to, say, Chrome or Firefox, even if you don't have that set as your normal default browser in iOS. speaking of travel options, there is also an option to download only on Wi-Fi, which is really great. If you find that you've got maybe a limited data allowance here, but then somewhere else you've got a much better data allowance, well, you can do that. Of course, if you want to clear everything out, you can do that. And there's this option to show the app badge count. I personally feel that this is very similar to what Marco Arment calls the badge count in Overcast, a way to add more stress to your life. I don't need to know how many articles I have not read so far, but I will get to them at some point. And if I don't, they're not taking up any space, really. So I'm good with that.
My next one is a brief mention. They've been a longtime sponsor on Twit, so I just want to put that out there. But one of my longest held apps is Audible. This is the app that is the way that I listen to audiobooks, which I do pretty regularly. And, there's not a whole lot to say about the app itself. It's just Audible is the library where I get my audiobooks, and so Audible, the app, is where I listen to my audiobooks. I have become, over a period of many years now, a huge audiobook fan. There was one point at which I thought there was this sort of, superiority complex that existed where reading a book with your eyes was a different thing from reading a book or experiencing a book with your ears. And not only is that just silly on its own, but the science also suggests that that's not the case. And that is, why I kind of stopped feeling guilty about being an audiobook listener versus being an iReader. And ever since I let that go, however many years ago, I absorb so much more content than I ever have. And that almost sounds that almost makes it seem like it's not worth doing, but it's more than just absorbing content. It's experiencing all of these different worlds, and it's my leisure. It's all of these things. So I really love what Audible has enabled for me in terms of getting to take in more books than I ever have. So yeah, just a quick mention for Audible. It's free to download, and then you can subscribe to Audible, or you can buy books individually on the platform. All right. Any thoughts on Audible, or are we good to move on to your next one?
I just want to mention, I also personally use and love Audible, not because they're a sponsor, but because I do genuinely like them. And I totally agree, Micah. There is, if you're consuming a book, then that counts as reading it, whether it's with your ears or with your eyes or with your fingers. They are all valid ways of reading a book. So I'm not going to throw any shade at people for reading books different ways. I know nonfiction books, I do much better listening to them than I do reading them. I don't absorb them if I read them. I do absorb them if I listen. Anyway, my next app that I want to talk about, which I've been using since 2011, so that's a year after I started getting things from the App Store, and I think that's around about when I got my first iPhone, is TripIt. So TripIt, for people who don't know, is an online service where you can forward your travel booking emails and it will build your itinerary out of them. You can, of course, go in and add all of these things manually. You can hook it up so that it will read things in from your inbox as stuff comes in, which is a wonderful feature if you like to do that. And it automatically builds some really lovely itineraries for you. It's not perfect. I did think that, not this weekend, but next weekend, that I was going to New York for the day. I'm really impressed at how it managed to figure out I was going to New York for the day. I'm actually going to London for the day. I will be going past the airport on my way, but it will be quite a bit of a detour to go to New York.
I'm just going to take a quick trip to New York while I, just a quick drive.
I mean, Micah, I've gone to Chicago for a weekend from Vienna before. And when I say a weekend, I mean, I got there Friday and flew back on Sunday.
What? That sounds so stressful.
It was worth it. It was worth it. I got to hang out with Stephen Hackett and David Sparks and Dr. Drag and some other awesome people. So that was good. But what I like is as the trip goes on, it will give you information. So, for example, if you're subscribed to their premium plan, then when you're at the airport, it will give you gate information and so on. And this can frequently be faster than the actual screens and updating in the airport, and sometimes even the apps from the airline. A number of times I've had a push notification from TripIt to say, hey, you're at gate G42, and I'm halfway to G42 when the Lufthansa app has sent me a notification to go, hey, your flight will depart from gate G42. It's like, I know I'm already on my way. We're good. But it's got some great options. It will throw anything it doesn't understand into unfiled for you. And then it's got travel stats. And so it can show off some stats for you. This is a relatively recent addition. So apparently I have circled the world 11 and a half times with the amount of travel I've done. Now, bearing in mind, this doesn't include my commuting. I think that's a lot of travel. If we look at this year, however, if we can see that a certain global event has massively affected my travel, let's say last year, I still managed to visit 5 countries, but I did that in January and February. So I don't think that really counts too much. But yeah, so it's really interesting to have this information. It does have some shortcut support to, for example, get the status of your next flight and things like that, where if you're flying a lot, this is great. What I really love, though, is when you are building a trip, it's not going to do it for this one because it's a single day trip. But if I pop into this trip here and then go to on the website, at the very least, it will tell me that I don't have a hotel booked for that trip and I need to book a hotel. That's actually not true. My parents have booked a hotel and they have yet to forward the booking information to me because I'm going to go and hang out with my parents for just over a week, which is going to be nice. But I really like this. It has all the information. It will help you spot any mistakes in your bookings very quickly. And I also like the fact that I can go ahead in advance and say, okay, so I'm going to be traveling to this location on these dates, and I put the trip in and I name it, and there's nothing there. And then as it pulls things in from my email, that I can see it filling up and go back and look and go, right, I have plane tickets. I don't have a way to get to or from the airport yet. I should really do that, which is actually what I need to do after the show for my trip to France.
All right. My next one is, this is an oldie, but another goodie that I will often bring up when someone tells me that they are, having trouble either maintaining focus or falling asleep or, just spinning their mind, all sorts of things. This is one that I really like to talk about. But I just realized that we need to take a quick break before we come back. So there's a little hint. And then we'll come back and I will talk about this app. Before we get there, though, I want to tell you about Raycon, who are bringing you this episode of iOS Today. Do you feel like you need some upbeat music as you head to a social gathering, or have you found yourself feeling anxious and needing to calm down with some guided meditation? Whoa, it's like they knew which app I was going to talk about next. No matter how you're feeling about getting back out there, there's no denying it's an adjustment. When the world gets too loud, something that could be great to do is create your own soundtrack by popping in your Raycon wireless earbuds. So let me tell you, Raycons are the best way to listen because they come with a bunch of gel tips for your comfort. And unlike some other brands, they don't stick out of your ears. I really do like these little beans you just pop into your ears, and they just rest comfortably there. There's not a whole lot of extra stuff. Raycons have a 32-hour battery life, ridiculous, 32 hours. So you can listen to what you want when you want for a really long time. And they start at half the price of other premium audio brands, but sound just as good. And Raycons come with a 45-day happiness guarantee, 45 days. So honestly, you can't lose. Give them a try and you'll see what we mean. I think I have a couple of pairs of Raycons at this point. And as I said, I really love the fact that they're just these tiny little earbuds that are, a lot of the other ones, they have some sort of stem or sometimes really long stems, and those can get in the way. I do a lot of audio listening at night, and I actually listen to audiobooks to fall asleep. And because of that, I always have to put, if I'm wearing, more traditional buds, I have to put them on the opposite, because I'm a side sleeper, the opposite ear of the one that I'm laying down with. And with these, because there's no stem, you can pop this in your ear and rest it on your pillow, and it's comfortable, which is really quite nice. And then also, if you just kind of want to be stealthy, you maybe at the grocery store or you are out and about and you don't want to look like you're in your own little world, but you also want to be in your own little world. This can be great for that. So, whether it's a podcast to kind of distract you from the things you want to get away from, or maybe you're learning something new with an audiobook, as we were just talking about earlier. These can be great for that. Create your own soundtrack with Raycon. Right now, our listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/iOS. That's buyraycon.com/iOS to save 15% on Raycons. Once more, buyraycon, RAYCON.com/iOS. Thank you, Raycon, for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. Alrighty, folks, we are back into it, and I wanted to tell you about Bootify, the meditation on the go app. Bootify, first of all, I love how it looks. You get this nice wheel that has all different options here. And so it asks you, what's happening? And you could be traveling, you could be walking, you could be with a friend, you might be on a work break, you might be using your phone, you might want to, quote, grow the lovely, you could be going to sleep, you can't sleep, you're waking up, all of these different things. So let's say I'm on a work break and you see that one's kind of popped out. That's because it's suggesting that maybe you are on a work break given the time. And then there are all of these different meditations that are available. There's texture, network, motivate, ready, couch, and sign. And these all have to do with the type of meditation that it is. So I'm going to tap and hold on texture to get more info. And it says, a tactile technique, you use the space around you to take a break and get in touch. And then if I were to play it, it would play this texture meditation that you can do and listen to it. There are also these little buttons here that have different options for selecting a feature. So there's together and there's transmission. And it looks like this is for, I've actually not heard about this, the Bootify membership, which is an annual subscription. It says... let's see what this does. I'm not sure what it does. Again, these are these apps that have been long on our phones. But it looks like it is for kind of going forward with your meditations, learning meditation techniques, and becoming more knowledgeable of these kinds of meditations. Transmission is a first-of-its-kind karaoke-style feature which allows you to read out and share our most popular meditations in your own voice with the people in your life. So maybe you want to help someone else meditate, but they feel uncomfortable with having some stranger talk to them. And so maybe I would want to help my mom with meditation, and she would feel more comfortable hearing my voice than a stranger's. So you could actually follow along and do this meditation with them. So I might actually have to check out this Bootify membership, but I'll go back to the main ones, and we'll also look at Can't Sleep, because these ones are so great, like Whack, which is a fun meditation game in which you learn how to catch thoughts as they appear and avoid getting caught up in their storylines. And I can remember playing that one. I used to fall asleep to Bootify almost every night when I was having trouble sleeping. And this app truly got me there. Bootify is available for $4.99 in the App Store. And then, of course, they've added this new Bootify membership for in-app purchases. But well worth checking out as a meditation app that doesn't have a bunch of extra cruft in it. Some of them are just filled with branding and nonsense. And that's what I really liked about Bootify, was that you got right to it and it didn't feel like it was trying too hard, which is something that you shouldn't do with meditation in the first place. That's Bootify.
That is a great app, Mikah. I did not know about that, and I will be downloading that one and giving that a try. But first of all, I might want to look up some facts about meditation and the history of meditation, or just, search for something. And I don't know about you, Mikah, but a lot of the time for things like this, I turn to Wikipedia. But Wikipedia on iOS, it's fine, but there's an app for that. Of course, there's an app for that. I've been using this app for ages. It's Wikipanion. So your companion for Wikipedia. And I like it just because it works in a way that you would expect an app version of Wikipedia to work, basically. Mm-hmm. So if I look up, for example, meditation, then of course it's going to make some suggestions as I type. And then it's got, meditation in general, meditations on first philosophy, meditations, literary work by Marcus Aurelius. And and I'll tap on meditation. And then, it goes through and it's giving me this nice view. And I can see all the comments and everything here from Wikipedia, which will allow me to just jump to something else. But just like a web browser, you can go back. So if, like me, you fall down a search rabbit hole frequently, then you will find that, hey, wait, I was looking for a black-chested buzzard eagle. What was I looking at before that? Pony M, and then Ozone, Benny Davis, all sorts of things. And it's great. So you'll see that there's a contents option. So if I go forward a little bit to say, for example, meditation, then the contents is obviously a little bit longer here. So I could look specifically at Taoism and see what it's got there. There's also related options here. So, for example, related to this is yoga, which allows me to go and look at yoga, and it does a search for that related term. And then, of course, you can load that page. Of course, in the bottom right, there is a share button, which allows you to go ahead and just share it as a Wikipedia link. And it avoids those mobile links, which then have to be redirected on desktop when you share things. And I like it. It's a simple app. It's free. There is also a pro version. We'll link to the free one in the show notes. I've never had a problem with the free one. It works great. I love it. 10 out of 10.
Nice. And then I have one more that I'll mention before we move on to the news segment. And that is, sorry, I'm just trying to organize here. Sworkit. Sworkit is it's a play on the word circuit, because this is circuit training, or as is often known now, high intensity interval training. And Sworkit was an app that I used for I think about a year when I was super into working out. And this was kind of my go-to app for working out, because it had different I could set up the exercises kind of how I wanted them. And so it was never the same thing, which is very helpful for me as a person with ADHD. So here in the Sworkit app, there are different categories like essentials, new releases. And of course, this has been updated a lot over time, but there's also stuff that you can check out. For example, if you've got kettlebells, if you've got resistance bands, if you've got weight lifting equipment. And then there's some stuff for, like, if you're a beginner, you can start here. And this is a whole segment, beginner, abs, and core. It tells you the difficulty. It tells you what equipment you need, if you need any, what it focuses on, and what it's good for. And then it has right here, you can see the stuff that you'll do. It's a 10-minute workout, and you can do the advanced version for 20 minutes. And so if I choose select workout, then you get the option to start a trial, and then, you can not continue if you don't want to, $60 a year. And then there are some other plans that are available. But this one, I don't use this one. I haven't used this one in a while, but it is still downloaded to my phone because it was one that was kind of near and dear to me for the different workouts that were available at all times, and that they continue to add to over time, make available for you to use. So when I was kind of scrolling through and I saw, oh, there's Sworkit, I remember you were so good to me. I definitely had to give that one a mention. So available to download for free. And as you can see, in-app purchases for the subscription service with a free trial to give it a go and see if it's for you. So if you're like circuit training, this could be the app for you. I do think that they do a good job with the music integration, where you can pull in your own music and kind of get you into wanting to partake in the exercises. That's always been a good thing about it. So, yeah. I forgot there is one last one that I wanted to mention, because this one's a super easy one, and I apologize that I missed it. This one is an app that it's $1.99 in the App Store, and it is an endless app for time wasting, and it is called Desert Golfing, and it is just an endless play game, a procedurally generated game, if I remember correctly. And what you do is you desert golf. So what I'll do is I will you can sort of select and pull on the the screen anywhere. You just tap your finger down and you pull and release. And you can see I did not do a very good job there. So I'm going to pull a little bit harder and force it forward. Oh boy, too far. So we're restarting. Let's try it again. I have not played this in a long time, so I'm failing to remember the physics of it. And we missed it by that much. So now let's go back the other way. And now we finally got that hole. And it keeps you on, it keeps your par like as you're going. So obviously you want to have as low as possible. Come on, there we go. That's how you do it. And so you can just pull this out at any time and start playing it. What's odd is on screen, this is not how it looks on my phone. The scaling is off, so it's displaying incorrectly. I can't see all of those different holes that are available. But on my screen...
I think it's just overlaid this small screen over a big screen of it. That's what it looks like to me. Because to start with, I was confused because things almost lined up. But now I think it's just overlaid.
There we go.
There we go.
So let me just pull and release here. And now you can see. And so as you move along, it just moves the screen along to the next thing and to the next hole that you try to get into. So simple app. No ads, no anything. It's $1.99 in the App Store. And you have endless desert golfing available to you.
Wonderful. I love it. I do just want to throw out a quick mention to one of the games that was one of the earliest games that I downloaded, and it was updated on the App Store just last week, and that is Where's My Water? So for people who don't remember, your job is to try and get the water to the crocodile who needs to have a bath because he's a little bit of a smelly crocodile. And you obviously have to try and collect the rubber duckies on the way, and then you need to get the water to the pipe and fill it up. And as you progress through, then there are lots more levels to go through, and it's a fun, cute game. I believe it's actually now part of Apple Arcade, but it's free to download. So if you don't have $2 spare for desert golfing, well, you can find some water instead.
There you go. All righty, folks. That brings us to the end of this segment of the show, which means it's time for the news. All right. Up first, we have Apple stores. Tell me about, oh, okay, I know what this is now. At first I was a little confused because I was thinking that this meant that Apple had teased something that it wasn't meant to. But this is Apple kind of updating the in-store look and feel for its devices by making things MagSafe. Finally, MagSafe comes to the Apple Store.
Yeah. So now if you walk into an Apple store and you look at a display, if you're at the right angle, iPhones will appear to just be floating magically there. And of course, your instinct is even more going to be your reach your hand out and grab it, which is, of course, what they want. That's why the phone screens are at weird angles. That's why laptop screens are at a specific angle. Everything in the Apple store is designed to make you pick it up and touch it so that you get that human connection with it and then you want to keep it. And the MagSafe is no exception. It looks really pretty. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, I won't say a Belkin dock, Micah. I'm sure it's not, or maybe Apple did work with them on this. We don't know. We probably won't ever know. That these things tend to remain a secret for a very long time. But it used to be that things got plugged into Lightning displays before, which are still available for purchase. People have been using them to put MagSafe batteries on. This works with pretty much every battery size, phone size, except the Pro Max. The Pro Max sitting on one of those Lightning docks, if you have one of those around, with the MagSafe battery on the actual dock itself, does not work too well. But yeah, it's nice to see. It's pretty. Let's see what else they update with.
Yes. I like this new look and feel, and it feels, I mean, especially because, I think that encourages folks maybe to go, oh, wireless charging. I think I want that. Next, Apple is looking to make space for larger batteries in the iOS devices and maybe even MacBook devices, by going with slimmer chips. Can slim in the chips give you more space for battery? I mean, Apple is constantly looking for ways to cut down on space as much as they possibly can to rework things so that it works out that you get, in this case, more battery. Sometimes it's to slim down the actual device itself. So now it's like, hey, we've got a pretty slim device. Let's just figure out how to pack more battery in there, because that's what everybody wants, is more battery whenever they can.
I mean, I personally, like, this has appeared in a couple of different online blogs this week. I kind of feel this is almost a non-story, because Apple is constantly trying to make everything smaller, and there's always a trade-off. So, I'm sure that, people will be, the Apple are trying to slim everything down all the time. And they know that battery life is one of the complaints people have. The primary complaint about the iPhone 12 mini is that it has no battery life. There's a reason why mine usually sits on an Anker charger on my desk all day. It's also because I forget to charge it at night. These things, do need charging, but the less frequently people need to charge them, usually the better. Though if you're like me, Micah, I find that having to put it on charge every single day eliminates the problem that I used to have back in the days of the good old Nokia candy bar style phone, where you would forget to charge it and then a week later go, I guess my phone's dead. Whoops. And you kind of didn't really notice because you weren't charging it every single day.
Yeah. This one's exciting. Australians are now able to add their COVID-19 vaccine certificates to their Apple Wallet. So thanks to the way the Australian government's app for what am I trying to say? Thanks to the Australian government's app that lets you keep track of your vaccine information, they've added the ability to then add it to your Apple Wallet. This works differently in different countries. Some countries have set this up. Some cities, states have set this up. Others have not. And it's all dependent on where you are. And I know we've got a conversation to have a little bit later today. So we'll talk about that when the time comes. Anything you want to say about that, though?
I just want to mention NHS in the UK also has this feature, but it's not in the NHS COVID app. It's in the NHS app. There are two separate apps. So you need to go through and get it. I was hopefully going to show mine by today. I tried to set it up earlier. I had my jab. Got a tiny little bruise on my arm to prove it last Saturday, but unfortunately it's still not showing up. It can take 5 working days apparently for it to come through. And even though we've had 5 working days, I guess the system is a little overwhelmed right now because so many people are getting poked.
And then the app clip self-checkout comes to the Apple Store app. So app clips are these really cool things that let you basically use the full functionality of an app without having to have the full app. And so there are different ways that you can go about this. And so if you are in an Apple store that has this set up, you will be able to grab a thing, scan the thing, and pay for the thing, and then leave, and you are good to go. I actually had this experience for the first time the other day, not at an Apple store, but my partner and I went to a restaurant, and afterward, the server came up to us, and I'll take the check now, and he gave me a receipt that had a QR code on it and nothing else. I'm used to getting that little booklet that it's sandwiched and it's got the receipt in it, and then you write the tip and all that kind of stuff, and then you slide your card into the top of it and you set it to the side of the table. They come and pick it up. No. Here comes just a receipt with this little QR code on it, and of course it says like scan this to go forward or whatever. But I immediately went, ooh, I know what this is, and so I lifted up my phone and scanned it, and it opened up an app clip for the Toast app. So Toast is a really popular, what are those called? Point of sale system that different businesses will buy. And so Toast is doing this, and they created an app clip where I was able to use Apple Pay from the app clip and add my tip. And of course, with this, they also offer suggestions for a tip based on percentage if you want to. And all of that was able to happen. And then I think it's 72 hours. It's some limit. It stays, the app clip stays around for a couple of days and then goes away. And so this was really handy. I didn't have to download an app to do it. We also didn't have to exchange anything. So I wasn't touching a booklet that, a lot of people have touched. They weren't having to take my card or anything like that. The only thing that was, kind of off about it was I felt strange walking away afterward because I didn't leave anything on the table. I gave the tip in the app and in the app clip and did all of that stuff. And so it was like, man, it really feels like I'm dining and dashing right now, even though I have the receipt here in an email to prove that I paid for it. It felt weird. And so I don't know about you, but like I still have to get over that, because I think if I went into an Apple store and scanned paid and Go'd, I would feel kind of awkward walking out like, okay, I swear I paid for this. It's all what we were supposed to do. Ugh. I don't know. Do you have that? I mean, you folks have had chip payments and all that kind of stuff for a lot longer than we have in the United States.
We've had self-checkouts in supermarkets for a very long time. Actually, while I was at university, one of the many jobs that I took to pay the bills was working in Asda. That's UK kind of Walmart. They're owned by Walmart, or they used to be. And I supervised the self-checkouts at Christmas. Worst job ever. Don't do that, people. So I'm sort of used to this. And the Apple Store app has actually had this feature in it for a very long time, where if you had the Apple Store app installed, you could scan a product, pay for it. You could only scan one thing and pay for it. So if you wanted to buy 3 or 4 things, either you had to do the whole thing 3 or 4 times, or you had to do the dance where you try and find somebody in the Apple Store who's not actually working, even though it doesn't necessarily look like they're working. So they're standing there, but it turns out they're receiving instructions on a headset that you can barely see if you sort of squint at the side of their neck. You can see that there's a headset there or something. It's I think this is good. I think it's good that we're going to see this in more places. I know in the Apple Store originally, when they rolled this out in the app, the idea was afterwards you could just show somebody your phone and they would give you a bag, so you could put it in a bag so you didn't feel so weird walking out of the store. Of course, over here, we now charge people for plastic bags. We're trying to save the environment. You can ask for a bag, but you're going to have to pay for it. It's interesting. I would like to see this in more places. I know a lot of the things that I've seen recently post-pandemic have been like QR codes on the table to scan an order. And you know what that does? It opens a generic website for whatever the restaurant chain is, and then says, which restaurant are you sitting in? And you're there going, you could have put this information into a QR code. I understand not necessarily wanting to put the table number into a QR code because these things could be moved around. But it's not like you have 8 restaurants in this town at the same chain and you're going to be swapping stuff between them. You could have just added it as a URL parameter, ? Restaurant equals near Rose or whatever it is.
Listen to Rosemary.
Yeah. They could have done something there. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this. It'll be great when we do. I particularly love the idea of them giving it to you on your receipt, Micah. That is great.
Yeah, I was really blown away and impressed. Apple, we talked a little bit about this on Smart Tech Today yesterday. I think this is really neat. So Apple is part of this push to have digital IDs on campuses. And so the idea is that instead of having a physical ID that A, is probably made of plastic, which is on its own not great, B, could get lost and needs to be replaced with more plastic, which is not great. All sorts of reasons why a digital ID is far more accessible. There are a multitude of reasons why this is good. Apple is expanding its program with student IDs for different universities and schools in the US and Canada. And as I was telling Rosemary, what I like about this is campuses are a great place to what is the word I'm looking for? Pressure test this technology so that not only are we seeing kind of what kinks need to be worked out, but we're also seeing some case studies that places that you and I would visit, like hotels or maybe our places of business or what have you, would want to see before they start implementing it. And so I think that this helps to continue the conversation and expand upon the use of digital IDs for Apple Wallet.
Yeah, this is great. Also, generally among students, you're probably going to have a considerably higher proportion of people with new devices who are able to learn how to do things on their devices and so on. I know whenever my grandmother asks me, "Oh, should I do this thing in and it wants me to add my card into the Apple Wallet? Do I want to do that?" And I'm there going, "Yes, that means you can pay by double pressing the button on the side of your Apple Watch." And she goes, "Oh, that would be much easier than digging around in my bag and finding my card and everything." It's like, yes, it would. I offered to set this up for you 3 years ago, but you didn't want that. It's because she goes to the supermarket with somebody else now who is paying on their Apple Watch. So she's seen it and therefore she wants to use it. And I think this is one of these things, by getting this into a chunk of the population who is more likely to want to trial these things out and give it a go. I mean, also with students, they don't necessarily get given a choice. It's here's your student ID. You can have it in Apple Wallet or Google Wallet. Pick one. I think that'll probably be the choice of it for a lot of these students. So by doing that, it will allow things to grow naturally because people often, once they've seen things like this, are happy to dive in and give it a go. But until they've seen it, they don't want to try it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And then we've got Apple, who is expanding its California self-driving test fleet while decreasing its California self-driving test fleet drivers. So it's interesting. This is a voluntary program with the state of California where you register with the California DMV what your self-driving test fleet is composed of. And they are, again, expanding on the actual test fleet itself. And then over time, the number of drivers has gone down, which means that I would assume, if we do the math there, that means that they're completely driverless vehicles. So it's just more testing of driverless vehicles on the road. Cool.
It is, yeah. And as we saw, the person who was previously in charge of the Apple Watch was theoretically assigned to the Apple Car group. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Up next, we've got more news. Let us continue with the news. For folks who love their dark mode, you will be happy to hear that Google Maps for iOS is finally getting dark mode. And then also an interesting messages integration that lets you share your real-time location. This is one of the things that I love about Apple Maps is the ability to use the app to share your location in real time, and it'll automatically update the person who you've shared your location with if the route changes or if it looks like they're going to be a little bit later. All these different reasons why they might not be coming at a specific time. I love that about Apple Maps. And so if you are a Google Maps user and you want that kind of functionality and you just, you're kind of, what is the word I'm looking for? You are, why can't I think of it? It's like when, I'm losing my mind here. When you choose to follow someone and you respect them and you won't change to something else because you are blank to them. Anyway, for people who use Google Maps and stick with Google Maps, this is a great feature for you. And one of these days I will come up with the word that I was looking for and then I will scream in my head about how I did not get it in time. But yeah, are you Google Maps or Apple Maps over there, Rosemary?
I mostly use Apple Maps. I pretty much know where I'm going around here. And even if I don't, it works really nicely with CarPlay. And it's pretty, it also has better, I find, lane navigation than Google Maps does. As in, I can be driving around a roundabout and it'll actually show me, hey, you want to be in the inside lane on the roundabout or the outside lane or whatever it is. And I actually know versus Google Maps, which is like, oh, hey, by the way, you needed to get into the other lane like 200 feet back. And it's like, great. Well, that's not happening. So I guess I'm just going to take this exit here and see how you reroute me. Thanks. Yeah, I tend to stick with it, but it's good. It's finally getting dark mode. I believe it already has dark mode for CarPlay. So why is this taking so long to roll out? Or maybe I'm misspeaking because I don't remember. But I definitely tried Google Maps out for a while, and I thought it had dark mode for CarPlay, but maybe it didn't.
By the way, folks, the word is loyal is the word I couldn't think of. loyal.
There we go.
For people who are loyal to Google Maps, now you've got some of the options that Apple Maps has.
Thank you, Prof. Panda Bear from NYC in the Discord there.
And also user 4961 in the IRC chat. We've got multiple people coming along to help us, help me out with a word that I could not remember. I want to, this is an aside, but I wonder if anyone's done a study on the neurology or psychology of when you have a word that's quote unquote on the tip of your tongue and then focusing on it causes you to not remember it, or anything, a topic, a subject, and by sort of taking your attention off of it, letting it roll into your brain. Because I quite literally, after you started talking, then loyal came into my mind, and then a few people posted loyal, and I was like, that's the word. So I wonder if there's something to that. Anyway, let's move on to the next one, which I am really interested in. Otterbox, who keeps making great MagSafe stuff, has launched a mobile gaming clip. Tell me about this, Rosemary.
Yeah, so this isn't the first time that Otterbox have done this. But if you have an Xbox controller, which you can connect to your iPhone or your iPad or Apple TV to play Apple Arcade games, then you might want a way to connect your phone to that. And what Otterbox have previously done is like a grip that goes around your iPhone. So it's over the top and the bottom, wrapping around the back, and it holds your iPhone in place on the Xbox controller. Fine. But now we've got MagSafe. So they've just done a MagSafe one. And what I really like about this as well is you can actually take the MagSafe grip part off of the Otterbox grip onto the Xbox controller and have it prop your iPhone up so you can play with your controller freehand mode instead of having the iPhone attached to it. Basically, I really like this. They it's a little attention to detail there. It's $40 for this. I have an Xbox controller which I got to play these games with on my Apple TV. I also have one of those wraparound controllers for my iPhone. It's not the Backbone, it's the other one. I've forgotten the name of it. I was using it earlier today and I didn't think to write the name down.
The Razer Kishi?
Yes, that's the one, the Razer Kishi. Thank you. Nice. Thank you, Anthony, the person behind the scenes who knows all and is all.
Okay, he didn't know loyal, so...
Oh, come on, Mikah, come on.
I know, I'm just being...
You expect people to know what's in your head when they're also concentrating on all of the other things?
Yeah, he's got a lot of buttons to press. I forgive you.
Yes. But anyway, this is great. If you already have the Xbox controller and you already have the iPhone, you think that you would use them on the go more frequently, this could be the way to do that. You don't have to get this version. You could get the older version, which clips onto your iPhone, but I like the MagSafe element of this. You know, it would allow you to say, take a MagSafe pop socket and just take it off the back of your phone, MagSafe your phone onto the controller, play some games, and then go, okay, I'm finished. Put your pop socket back on and off you go, or whatever it is that you keep on the back of your phone. It could be a muffed wallet. It could be an Apple wallet. I appear to have a collection of MagSafe things here on my desk, Micah, and I'm not quite sure how that happened. I need to ask you
about that Apple wallet because I ended up getting Otterbox's MagSafe wallet
Folio?
back. Just the wallet back that they had, and that's not going to work for me. How many cards can you put into Apple's? 3 cards.
And I also have a Moft here, which is pretty much the same thing, except it doesn't have the slot in the back. Instead, it does this thing where it folds out into a stand. That also holds 3 cards. These are designed to hold 3 cards each, and that's it. That's what you're getting. They're supposed to be slim and skinny and therefore pretty in that way rather than functional and potentially a little chunkier.
Yeah, so far the Nomad Folio that I have has ended up being the best thing for my iPhone. But as I said before, I just don't... I always take it out of this whenever I'm not using it. I liked your Otterbox option, but I didn't want to. Yeah, I just didn't want to have a case on my phone in order for it to fit properly. I want to be able to just have phone by itself and then the Folio. I'm still on an eternal hunt for the perfect setup. But yeah, all right, let's keep moving along here. I saw this flying around. If you are not a fan of certain lens flares in your photographs, Apple appears to be experimenting with removing unwanted lens flare in photography. In iOS 15, the image signal processor might be making adjustments to green lens flare in particular to help make the photos look better. So it says, in the latest iOS 15 beta, Apple has possibly improved iPhone processing when users take photos in conditions where lens flare is sometimes an unwanted artifact. The change was first brought to light on Reddit and further publicized by popular iPhone camera app Halide on Twitter. The side-by-side photos appear to show that Apple removes the lens flare from photos during post-photo processing on the newest beta. The photo below shows the final shot from a live photo without lens flare. And then the one above it has this sort of off to the left side, you can see this green dot that is lens flare. So sometimes lens flares are pretty and you like them. And sometimes lens flares are not pretty and you don't like them. And this is one of those cases where it looks more like an image artifact than it actually looks like a good lens flare for your photograph, and Apple might be removing it. But I'm curious, Rosemary, do we like this? Do we like Apple making these decisions for us? Or should they leave the image signal process? Should they leave this kind of image processing to the user?
I think the reality of it is, the vast majority of people that Apple are targeting with the camera on the iPhone are people who want a great camera in their pocket and they don't want to think about it. They want to pull out their phone, swipe across on the lock screen and take a picture, or 100 pictures, or press and hold and take a video, or whatever it is that they want to do. They don't want to be there making hundreds of decisions. Now, I am very much generalizing. There are most definitely people who want to take really great pictures with their iPhone. But the vast majority of people, I think, are people like me who just want to pull out their phone and go, nice picture, done. That's it. I'm walking off. Not, there's a lens flare. Well, I guess if the dog stopped doing the cute thing now, so I can't take another picture. Guess what? That I'll live with it. I think for most people, this is a good choice. I'm sure there will be a way around it or something. As Halide has already been able to detect that this is happening. So maybe they will have an option where you can include lens flare if you're J.J. Abrams or somebody. Then you'll be able to keep that. But I think most people won't really care, or they'll just think, oh, hey, my pictures look better now. Yep.
Right. And then this is a doozy of a story because there's a lot to it. So I want to start by explaining this technology in general. Yesterday, as we were recording Tech News Weekly, there was a story early in the day that Apple was about to announce something called client-side CSAM scanning. And this was, this is the, I think, Child Safety and Abuse. Oh, golly, I can't think of what CSAM stands for now. Child Sexual Abuse Material. So, rolling things back here, let me start with the kind of beginning of this. For quite some time, Apple and other companies have had server-side CSAM scanning, the ability to look at data that is uploaded in Apple's case to iCloud, photos, videos, etc., and compare them to a database of child sexual abuse material that exists, and then use that information to aid in legal processes that might take place. What's important to understand is that the way that this works, it's a little complicated, but the CSAM database, think of it as if like you take one instance of this material and the computer takes the photo, we'll say, and turns it into a code. Instead of the photo, it becomes a code. And so that code is completely separate from what that photograph is itself. And then when you, on your phone or your iPad or whatever, use iCloud to back up your stuff, then it goes into the server, Apple can take each individual thing and create a code of all of those things as well. And if the code that's in the database matches the code that Apple has created for each of your individual things, then it goes, okay, there might be child sexual abuse material in this person's library. And when it reaches a certain threshold, meaning that there's, multiple instances of this, then Apple can report it to the necessary authorities as it is. So what this does is it keeps Apple from actually looking at your content by using this, what they call hashes, to add a level of obscurity in between you and the content, right? What's new is Apple doing this on the client side. What that means is doing it directly on your device, where before it happened in the server, on the server side, up in the cloud, as we would call it. Now, Apple has announced that this is something that could be done on device. So what happens is that CSAM database that exists, your phone can have these different hashes that are equal to what material is in the cloud, is in the database. And then on your device, it can see if there are matches for that content. And then should it find matches for that content, again, we go to that threshold of, okay, we've found this many instances, and we pop it up to the necessary authorities, or however that needs to go. So all of that is what you need to understand in terms of how it's been for some time. Like in the case that this is not new, the CSAM stuff has been happening for quite some time, versus now where it's happening, or Apple's announcing that it's going to be happening on your device. And there are also a few other announcements that Apple made, but I don't want to get into those so much, as we want to talk about this because on the privacy and security advocate side of things, folks are saying, okay, what my concern is who's in charge of these databases of content, the CSAM content. So what happens when the government organization or agency that's in charge of this decides to add other material outside of CSAM to the database? For example, some sort of dissident content where, you know what, I'm gonna do like a stupid example. So say in the United States, it's illegal to eat chocolate. I'm sorry, Rosemary, I know you'll never come to the United States again. And so somebody has photos and videos of themselves eating chocolate, and the government adds to this database photos and videos of people eating chocolate. And so then, because they've added it to the database, now they can start to track and find people who are eating chocolate in the United States, despite the fact that it's illegal. So that is the concern that folks have, that essentially this will be abused. Apple has since said that they will be doing this new type of client-side scanning on a country-by-country basis. And of course, people are concerned, as they would be, and it's kind of a back and forth overall. So, Rosemary, now that we've kind of laid out everything there, and of course, you can also go to Apple's own site to learn more about how this works, apple.com/child-safety, to read more about it and get everything and understand everything about how this is working. Apple also included a bunch of quotes from different advocates to talk about this and what they're doing. And so, yeah, here's where I stand on things, and then Rosemary, definitely your turn. I am not a safety expert or a security expert or a privacy expert, and because of that, I can't really comment on the true implications of this. All of that said, I am glad that Apple takes this particular thing very seriously and is working to improve upon its technologies to help with child safety going forward. So that's all I can really say about it, because the rest of it is kind of out there for your finding if you want to hear from security experts and things like that. All right, Rosemary, go ahead.
I am also not a security expert, but I think like the bottom line of it is well, in some way, this might technically be infringing on our privacy. It's doing a very good thing, and it's actually not going to affect anybody listening to the show. Of that, I'm very sure. We're all lovely people. The feedback that I get from people implies that everybody here is a wonderful person who would not be doing anything like this, which is a great thing. I can see probably some people getting a little worried. Oh, aren't these hashes going to take up lots of space on my phone? If you think, okay, an image is, say, this big, okay, then what you have is you have a text version, which is like this big, okay? So I've gone from like 2 feet to, I don't know, a 64th of an inch in size as comparison. Now, obviously, this is just, a visual representation, but it's not downloading hundreds of gigabytes of data, and it's not putting those images on your phone to compare them. What it's doing is a hash, and that hash allows them to compare things. So say, for example, you've got a picture, if you're watching the show, you're looking at me right now, that's a picture, and then you've cropped it. Okay, so you've only got my face. Well, that face is still going to get matched. If you make it black and white, that's still going to get matched, and things like that. So they're being very smart in the way that they have done this to try to make it as good as possible in order to actually catch those people that need catching. Now, of course, it's entirely possible at some point that this system will be expanded. And right now, this system only works in the USA. It doesn't work in the UK. So, for example, I think they're probably going to have to do a partnership over here with the NSPCC, that's the National Society for the Protection of Children. And so on. But it would be wonderful if they can partner with other agencies around the world to roll out similar features in other places. I know Apple has apps on the App Store where, or not has apps on the App Store, but has allowed apps on the App Store, which asks you to do things like take photos of hotel rooms and upload them so that they can put into databases to help catch people who take these photos in the first place, and so on. So I'm glad to see this is expanding. It's also expanding in another way. There's specifically a feature which integrates with iMessage. So on apps which are under parental control, it will also go through iMessage and look for, photos containing nudity and so on, which, could well be things that just basically, shouldn't be sent. And it blocks them out. So people who've used an NSFW filter, a not safe for work filter on, say, Reddit or something, which will block out images. This is often used for spoilers as well, actually. So say, for example, somebody's talking about the last Game of Thrones episode. Can you believe this thing? And there's this big image and it's just gray with the word spoiler in it. If you click on it, then you'll see the actual image. But the idea is if you haven't seen that episode, then you don't click on it and it doesn't get spoiled for you, just like Mikah was talking about earlier with looking at IMDb rather than Googling to find things out. It is, potentially worrying that this may be expanded to other things, like, for example, looking at hashes of movies and films and images to detect copyrighted content and so on. But I personally think that's a can of worms that Apple is probably not going to touch for a very long time. And I should also highlight that the nudity in images feature is purely for iPhones under parental control. These are not, my iPhone is not under parental control. It's not going to go, this person sent you a nude image. Do you want to see that? Where, potentially it's entirely consensual. And that is what people were sending backwards and forwards or whatever. This is purely for people where the iPhone is under parental control. Apple does not allow parental control on iPhones for people over the age of 18 unless you lie about their age on the App Store account. And this feature in particular works on children under 13. So as children grow up, then obviously you need to have the appropriate conversations with them about, what things are good to send backwards and forwards and what things are not so good to send backwards and forwards, and, how to keep yourself safe online. But it's interesting. There has been an internal memo from inside of Apple talking about how this, is a need to protect children. I think overall this is a good thing. Obviously, as with all of these things, it could potentially be expanded in a way that you or I might find, does infringe on our personal securities. But I think in this particular case, I don't think anybody can argue against it because, this is already done on cloud data. This is just for those people that don't have cloud data turned on. It'll get done on the local device as well.
Yep. I think you and I are pretty much on the same page about this. And it's one of those things where part of it is making the argument against this kind of thing becomes a difficult conversation because it quickly becomes, are you arguing against protecting children? And so I understand the criticisms that are taking place in that aspect, the sort of meta argument surrounding this. But in any case, there's a lot here, and it's continuing to kind of fall into place as we learn more about it. So, yeah. Last but not least, if you, like me, got excited when you saw that Apple was selling its Magic Keyboard with the Touch ID sensor built into it and thought, I've got to buy this. And then you realize...
I can't even point at the right side of my keyboard on screen, Micah. I'm terrible at this, apparently.
You should be aware that it may not be for your Mac like it is not for mine. I've got a 16-inch MacBook Pro. It is an Intel Mac. And despite the fact that I have a Touch ID sensor on the 16-inch MacBook Pro, if you don't have an M1 Mac, then that keyboard will not work with the Mac. So don't buy this if you've got an Intel Mac. It only works for M1 Macs.
Yeah, I actually put this in the show notes, Micah, because I also wanted to answer the question that I got sent by 3 people this week, which is, can I buy this keyboard and it works with my iPad? And the answer is, I'm very sorry. I connected the keyboard that came with my purple iMac to my iPad Pro, and the keyboard works, the Touch ID does not. So you won't get the ability to use Touch ID with your iPad, even if your iPad has an M1 chip in it. So I'm sorry about that, people. It's sad news. But, at the very least, you know now. So if you've ordered one thinking, I'll use it with my iPad and I want the Touch ID on my iPad, you can still return it. Apple has a 2-week return policy.
There you go. Alrighty, folks, it is time to move on to Shortcuts Corner. Folks, this is the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts questions and Rosemary claps back with her shortcuts answers. Shortcuts Corner. Tell us about today's feedback.
Well, today's feedback is some follow-up from a previous question that was sent into Shortcuts Corner, and then follow-up as well from last week's episode where we talked all about some awesome apps to enhance your shortcuts experience. So a while ago, Quadratic sent us a question asking about whether or not there is a way to track time on charge during the day, because that's when he's supposed to be working, but every so often you pick up your phone, you fall into a TikTok rabbit hole. Before you know it, you're buying these fancy sunglasses and new shoes on Amazon, and 3 hours have passed and you didn't do your day job. Whoops. I gave him some suggestions back then, and things have been working out, and he's had a pretty good solution going. But he wrote in again the other day to say, oh wow, Data Jar is great. I just use it to update the automation you helped me make, logging phone charging time, and it solved the one issue I was having with the notes solution, deleting values after reading. And Quadratic even put a screenshot of his automation in the Discord chat actually for us. And I could see that there was a little something here that I could improve because what Quadratic was doing was he was checking whether or not a data existed in Data Jar. And then if it existed, he was doing a whole bunch of different things. Well, I suggested instead of setting a value and then deleting a value, instead, what you can do is just set it to 0 or 1, or you could even use a Boolean and set it to true or false, because this way the data is always there. So you don't have to check if it exists and do one thing if it exists, and one thing if it doesn't exist. Then you can just get it every single time and empty it out when there's nothing there. So I'm glad that we have improved somebody's shortcuts. And I want to ask everybody, if you have a question, it doesn't matter how silly your question is with shortcuts. If you have a question about shortcuts, send it in. And that includes shortcuts for the Mac, because we will do a little bit of information on that and how it's different to shortcuts on iOS in a future show. I'm saying that without checking that with Mikah, but we will do a little mini segment at some point on what is a little bit different there, because there are a few things that are different, which are important to watch out for if you are becoming a shortcuts fan on iOS. Well, it's coming to macOS in October probably, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of things. So feel free, email us your questions, tweet us your questions, post them in the Discord. IRC is a little difficult. I don't have a bouncer, so I'm not watching the IRC all the time, but feel free to send it in to us in any way, shape, or form.
All right, now we move on to feedback. Doug has written in, do you have any vaccination record app recommendations? In the US, we're not likely to get one from the government, but local music venues are now requiring proof of vaccination for entry. That's a good thing. So far, a picture of our CDC card that ties to our state ID is acceptable, but I would rather have some form of application, especially if I could pull it up from the iOS wallet. I've come across several here and am a Clear member, CLEAR, so that seems to be the front runner. And then they included a link to insider.com that has best vaccine passport apps. Yeah, there are some options out there, and you can always, I've scanned both sides of my ID as well as keeping it in the bag that I take with me everywhere. So I've got it in multiple forms. But as we're going to talk about on the show here, Rosemary and I, if you want to go with a personalized version, Rosemary and I are going to talk about an app called MakePass. With MakePass, you can create your own custom Apple Wallet card. And so I have put together my own custom Apple Wallet card here. And I've, of course, mosaiced out the QR code because it is a smart card QR code. So it actually has like basic health record information that in iOS 15 is actually something you can import into the health app. So I have my vaccine stuff digitally saved in the health app in one place. I've got my card front and back saved to my Dropbox and to my iCloud drive. And then I've got this, which is available in my wallet app, where I just made it on my own using MakePass. So would you like to tell us about MakePass?
Yeah, so MakePass does a whole bunch of things. And you were the one that introduced me to it, actually, Mike. I believe it was one of your app caps. And of course, I was tidying up my iPhone earlier and I offloaded a whole bunch of apps. And there it is. There, it's just reinstalled. So you can go ahead and make a brand new pass. And as you make a pass, of course, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do. You can also select an icon as a file. You could set a barcode, including a barcode from a photo, which would allow you to pick a specific photo of, say, your vaccine card. And I would suggest that you probably want a generic card type rather than an event ticket or boarding pass for this, because you're going to want it to stand out. And you won't want a relevant date or location for this, but you can add a whole bunch of information here as well so that everything shows up. And you can give it everything that you like. So as you go through and add, don't forget that as you type and you've added a field, then you can tap on that preview in the top right. And so if you want to say that it's a CDC one, then you could do that and set that up. But as you go through and set all the information that you might want or need, then you will hopefully actually end up with a great result of a readable, good-looking vaccine pass. And don't forget that the logo image is going to be a smaller image. It's going to be this barcode that you're going to want to set as that information as well. Don't forget, though, you can type all this information here as well. So, for example, first jab, we call them jabs over here. And so I don't remember when that was. So I'm just going to guess that it was, I don't know, the 9th of March. That's wrong, but there we go. So I can add first jab and then I can add second jab. And that was on the 31st of July. I remember that much. There we go. And so now I've got both of those dates right there, which is really useful. Or I could put them down here in the pass front fields if I prefer. So I'm just going to type hello and world in there. Oh, I can't spell world. There we go. I'm having a day there, Mikah. And this potentially is a bit more useful. So have a play around with all of those different fields. Now, you could potentially use a shortcut to pull up some images every single time. Mikah, you talked about this last week, base 64 encoding an image to put it in as a shortcut. So actually what I'm going to do,
nice.
I'm going to take a picture. I've got a really nice fancy keyboard here.
Whoa, that is a very cool keyboard.
I know. Look at those rainbows, right? As it's going.
Whoa.
Oh, man, I love it. And I'm using some really fancy switches so that they shouldn't be so loud when I type. So I've got a photo here. And if you want to base 64 encode an image so that you can keep it in your shortcut, then what you need to do is you need to start with getting the picture, right? So you need to select your photo or photos, and then you'll need the base 64 action. Okay, and base 64 encode. And then when you've done that, so you select your image and then it encodes it. It might take a while, but that is your image. Wow, that is a lot of data. So what I would actually recommend doing before this, actually, I'm just going to change this to get a latest picture because I know it's the last picture I took. So I'll just pop that in here. And then I'm going to convert my image. Now, you might be thinking, Rose, you don't need to convert your image. It's fine. Well, if I convert my image, I can, first of all, turn off preserve metadata because people don't need to know exactly when and where I took this picture. And I can bring down the quality, which is going to reduce the file size. So now if I get the latest picture and then have a look at this, it's still long, but I promise you it's actually smaller. So I'm just going to add that to my clipboard. And then I'm going to always allow that. Perfect. Done. Now I can delete all of these actions. Everything's gone. Okay, so I've got an empty action. I get a text action. I paste in my base 64 encoded image. Wow, that's a big text block now, but that's okay. And then I look for that base 64 encode action again. And this time I tap on encode. I swap it to decode. And then you can do a couple of things. I would suggest, however, for this, what you're going to be looking for is the quick look action. And for those of you familiar with macOS, that's when you tap the space bar. You'll get quick look if you're in Finder, for example, and you're looking at images. My iPhone is a little stuck there. This is the problem with beta software. There we go. Quick look. Wonderful. I have a random Dropbox action in there, but I don't need that. Okay. So now this is my image. Okay. This text block right here is my image. So I don't have to, hunt for something in my photo library or whatever. No. It decodes this and then it's going to show it to me every single time. Look at that, Mikah. Done. I hit play and bam. That's it. It's showing right up on my screen. And so then what I can do is I'm going to save this as keyboard image because otherwise I'm going to get very confused later. If I pop into this little three dots here, then I could pin it in my menu bar and everything. I can add some shortcuts options to do that. But instead, I want the share sheet option. Cancel. Add to my home screen. And there we go. Now I can add this to my home screen. If I pop back to my home screen, look, right here, boom. I tap it, and there I have my image. Done.
Immediately shows it.
Yeah. It immediately shows it. Now, I recommend including that convert image option and bringing down the file size of your image because the bigger the image is, the longer it's going to take to decode it. And so that means it's going to take a longer time to, get it to show up. So the smaller the image is, the faster it will show. You will have to play around with the convert image option. I recommend not putting anything after it for a while and just playing around, drag the slider up and down and make sure that you can still read your glasses. Now hold your iPhone a meter away from you and make sure that you can still read your paths, okay? Because if you can't read it, then you're going to have a problem. If it's written in Dr. Scroll, then nobody's going to be able to read it, but make sure that you can read that image. Make sure somehow it's possible to read the image. Ideally, try out that OCR feature that you can use in images on iOS 15 when that comes out. See if that works. Or if you're in the public beta, then give that a try right now. But there we go. That's how you can base 64 encode and decode an image so that you can have an image a tap away on your home screen.
Nice. I am definitely going to set that one up. I think that's a great option there. Alrighty, folks. Now it is time for our app caps. is the part of the show where Rosemary and I put caps atop our head to honor our picks of the week. These could be apps or gadgets that we are using, that we're excited about, that we want to share with all of you. This week, I am taking it easy on the app cap because I don't have my in-ear monitors with me, so I had to be able to continue wearing my big old headphones over the top of my cap. Rosemary Orchard, tell us about the cap atop your head and your app cap.
Well, it's a little toasty here today, Micah, and so I decided to be a little cheeky, and I've not gone full hat. I've gone headband with devil horns because it's a dirt devil, and you know what? There is nothing worse than looking at a laundry symbol and going, I don't really know what this means. And it turns out I actually thought I was pretty good at laundry symbols. Nah. I was missing so much. And there is a great app for this. It's called Laundry Lens on iOS. And when you open it, it just jumps straight into the camera. And you can see it's pointing at a nice fancy keyboard. It's not finding anything. But if I go over here to something I bought recently, I've actually not washed it yet because I needed to check how I could wash it. It's going through and trying to identify all of these symbols here. And look, it's got 5 symbols. There's 3 on the top row, 2 on the bottom. So now I tap see instructions. Okay, and it says machine wash, water temperature up to 40 degrees. And yeah, that's exactly what I assumed. Turns out that line underneath, Micah, that means delicate. I did not realize that. So I need to make sure that this is washed on a delicate cycle. Well, I usually tend to wash things on delicate cycle anyway. But do not bleach. I had assumed that this is a lovely sort of tie-dye type material. So if I bleach that, that's obviously gonna affect that pattern. Do not tumble dry. Iron on a low heat up to 110 degrees Celsius. 110 is not low heat. And do not dry clean. But what I really like about this is it has all of the information. It's got a flashlight to turn the light on and off. It's very, very simple. And it also, if you just swipe up, will show you a list of all of the symbols, and it highlights the ones that it's seen in your label. And then you could tap on some others as well. So say, for example, you notice it's got this, okay, but it hasn't been able to recognize that. Maybe it's an older label or something, and something's not readable anymore. And I don't know what some of these symbols mean. So I'm just going to go through and select some of them. And then if I swipe back down, then I can now tap see instructions. And it says dry flat in the shade. Air tumble dry only, no heat. Do not tumble dry, obviously. Dry clean, any solvent except... I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, and do not dry clean are some of these options. So that's really good to know. And I really like that. I love that you can just select symbols and then tap see instructions, even if you don't, if your camera can't detect it. I really like this app. It's free to download. It's in the App Store. You might think you know everything there is to know about laundry. I think, Micah, that you might be wrong. And maybe there's something that you can learn about laundry, because put it this way, I'm good at laundry and I learned something today. So there we go.
It's a fantastic app. It's brilliant. It's like if you go looking online, there are places that will charge you to try to figure out what these different things are. It's ridiculous, but Laundry Lens not only does it, but does it smartly. And I think it's a fantastic app. And then everybody can learn what those symbols mean, which is just fun. It's fun to learn. My pick this week will be familiar to Rosemary, so I wouldn't be sad if she got a little tired and sleepy and bored, because I did talk about this on Smart Tech Today yesterday. But for folks who are iOS Today followers and wanted to hear about this, I wanted to mention it again. It is the Anker car mount charger. I've been looking for a MagSafe style charger for my car that I could count on being kind of stable and a good connection, enough that I wanted to replace the Mophie charger that I currently have in my car. And turns out Anker was the one to come out with it. For $35.99, you get a car charger that offers 2 different kinds of mounts. So first I'll talk about the magnetic part itself. It's this nice pad here. It comes in white and black. I got the white one. And what's really cool is it's very Apple style. I wasn't expecting this. I thought it'd be kind of a plastic thing, but no, aluminum, and it's got chamfered edges. So it's a really premium design. And then it's got your standard kind of ball joint connector on the back of it. So this connects to the 2 mount options that are available. Oh, I should mention USB-C charging. So it's got a USB-C port here and then an LED indicator at the bottom of it as well. The two mounts, one is one that you'd mount to the top of your dash. And then it has this nice little clip on the back for the cable. So you can run that very easily. And you would, of course, put the... let me get this back out again. You would connect it here like so, and then it's on your dash and you can move it around. And then the other one, I think this is a really cleverly engineered mount. It is also ball joint, but it works with your vent. So pretty common that different companies try to make ones that kind of clip to your vent. But Anker has done a really interesting thing here. There's this metallic arm that extends into your vent, and it has kind of a grabby claw with a spring-loaded mechanism. So you stick it into the vent, and then you let go of the clip, and it will help to hold it tight, hold it fastened. The ball joint's on the front, and then what's super neat is it has these two little arms on the bottom with padding on the back that help it to stay steady when it's on your dash. So not only does it clip, but it also has a mechanism for providing stability. I think that's super cool. And then also in the box, you get a USB-C cable, quite long USB-C cable, and it's just a standard USB-C cable, but it's Anker, and Anker makes good quality USB-C cables. So the one thing that you're going to need, even after getting this for $35.99, is a car adapter that has USB-C on the front of it. As far as stickability, I will put my phone on it, and this is the big boy phone, iPhone 12 Pro Max, and I can shake it back and forth if you have a car with poor suspension or, a Jeep Wrangler that's purposely made to kind of feel everything, then you'll be happy to know that this thing is not coming off with that much stuff. And so if you've got a car that, very lightly makes moves, then, if you just do, then you really don't have to worry about this being an issue. So this is a really nice charger that is, like I said, held pretty steadfast on there. And I'm really excited about adding this to my vehicle and using this as my mount. As I said, right now I've got a Mophie one, and with the Mophie one, it's a wireless charger, but it doesn't have magnets in it. So it has these two arms on the side that you have to pull apart, slide the phone in, and then when you lift it, then they kind of close. So with this, I can just stick it on there and I'm good to go, and it's ready. So I've been waiting for this. Anker came out with it, $35.99. Super happy to see it, and looking forward to adding it to my car.
Yeah, I really like this. If my car did not have a Qi charger and a little pocket built in, then I would definitely be looking for something like this. But it has a Qi charger. The only thing I need to figure out is I need to put some little bumpers in there so that my phone actually falls into the right spot to charge every single time, instead of me having to put it in, move it a little to the left, a little to the left, a little to the left. No, darn it, too far. Back to the right a little bit to find the sweet spot. But it's rubberized, so once it's there, it's not actually going to move. I need to figure something out there, Mikah. I'm sure somebody in the chat room might have a bright idea. If not, worst case scenario, I have a 3D printer. Once I figure out the right location, I can just measure it all out, print a thing which my phone will then slot into every time, and done.
Yes. I wanted to mention, too, this is not related to our app caps, but another thing that people should consider is that shortcut that you showed where tapping on it immediately brings up your vaccine record. In this case, it brought up an image of your keyboard, but for me, it brings up my vaccine record. Don't forget that you've got back tap options in accessibility, so you could set that shortcut to be triggered by 3 taps on the back of your phone, and then immediately show it on your screen. So
my phone was upside down there, but yes. And to be clear for people, so I've got the MagSafe pop socket on here. I'll just take that off a second. You need to be tapping it here in the middle of your iPhone for those back tap options to work. Tapping at the bottom, tapping at the top, that doesn't work. You need to be tapping right here. And then if it's running a shortcut like mine, if it's locked, it will say, hey, do you want to continue? And then if I continue, it will Face ID me. And it will create, in my case, a brand new empty draft ready for me to type something. But if you're having it show up your vaccine pass, you'll just have to confirm that if your phone is locked. But if your phone is unlocked, then it will just pop up and there you go. Done.
Boom. Done. All right, folks, if you have questions for us, if you've got Shortcuts Corner requests for us, if you've got feedback for us, if you've got any of that, basically, if you want to get in touch, you do that by emailing us at iOStoday@twit.tv, messaging us in the Discord channel or occasionally other shows' Discord channels, and tweeting at us if you'd like at iOS, or tweet with the hashtag AskIOSToday. Rosemary and I record this show live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 1800 UTC. You get there by going to twit.tv/live. But we think the best way to get this show is by subscribing to it, because then you get it as soon as it's available and ready for you. All you do is go to twit.tv/iOS and click to subscribe to the show in the feed and format of your choice, audio or video. And you just head there and take care of that. I should also mention the very cool Club Twit. If you would like to get all of our shows without the ads, then you should check out Club Twit for $7 a month. That's the first thing you get. Every show on the Twit network, ad-free. You also get this really warm feeling in your heart because you're supporting us directly, which makes us feel warm and happy, and I assume makes you also feel warm and happy. Then you get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed. That's content you're not going to find anywhere else, outtakes, behind the scenes, etc. And my favorite bit of fun, which is the Discord server that's only available to members of Club Twit. There you can talk with all of us hosts, producers, and other folks at Twit, as well as your fellow Club Twit members. If that sounds good to you like it does to me, $7 a month to be a member. Head to twit.tv/clubtwit to check it out and join the fun, join the party, join the club. All right, Rosemary Orchard, where do folks go to find you online?
The best place is rosemaryorchard.com, has links to all the things I do on the internet, including this wonderful show and 2 other podcasts that I host, as well as a couple of books. What about you, Mikah?
I can be found at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or head to chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of iOS Today. I've been Mikah Sargent. She has been Rosemary Orchard. We have been the iOS Today hosts, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I want to tell you about my show, Hands-on Photography, here on Twit TV. Each and every week, Thursday that is, I like to sit down and share with you the best tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer. And it's not always about Photoshop. It's not always about just having the biggest and baddest and bestest camera. It can be the simplest of things, like leave your eye open when you're looking through the viewfinder. All of these simple tips can really help step your photography game up. So subscribe to the show today. That's twit.tv/hop. And I look forward to talking to you soon.